want to do. A few more Zerglings are going to be streaming in here just to check it out. Sees the Nexus, which has been taken out. Going to try and do some more damage against it, being as annoying as possible. Meanwhile, in terms of tech, we see the lair is finally going up for Abver, and who knows what he's going to get out that. It's probably get out of that. Sorry, pardon my bad grammar. Temporary lapse of grammar, rather. So it would be interesting to see what he gets. It's probably going to be a tech up to, say, maybe an infestation pit, which would do pretty well versus the ground army. I don't know if it doesn't look like we have a Twilight Council yet. No Twilight Council has gone down. Oh my god, has gone down for the Protoss player, so we're not going to see the Zealot legs or blink quite yet. But if he did choose to do that, the infestation pit would be a pretty nice counter to that. The infestors can use their fungal growth versus the stalkers, preventing them from blinking, letting the Zerglings do tons of damage to the stationary units. He's going to be working on these backdoor rocks right now, probably gearing up to land another hatchery down here, get a third base, push ahead of DuckloadRa in economy, who's just barely getting his expo up and running. If we look at the income tab, we can see that the Zerg player Abver is clearly ahead, 40 harvesters to 34 of DuckloadRa. So we see a discrepancy in economy, and it's nice to see that Abver is going to be exploiting that by hopefully putting this down. He's got tons of minerals. Looks like he's sending the drone right there to place it down. Nice to see that. If you're ahead in economy, you got to stay ahead in economy. If you're behind in units, stay behind in units and catch up where you're good, okay? Exploit your opponent's weaknesses and take advantage of your strengths. Looks like a push is going to be coming out from DuckloadRa right now. The Void Ray is leading the charge. Doesn't want to get sniped by these queens here. They do considerable anti-air, and it looks like they are going to do some damage versus the Void Ray, who pulls back. No, and it gets taken out. That was very crucial. Looks like the Stalkers are going to be doing damage to the Roaches, which are caught behind a huge plethora of force fields here, and it looks like Duckload is going to be retreating. I do like to see that. It's probably not a good idea to engage once we have the sentries running out of energy. We can see here they're not quite up to the same energy capacity as they were before. We now have a tech up to Immortals from DuckloadRa, which is going to do so well versus this roach-heavy composition of roxkisAbver, and it looks like he's going to be getting missile attacks too, so he is going to fully commit to these ground forces, probably going to be roaches and hydras the entire game, which is what he did end up using that lair for. We do see that DuckloadRa is going to be staying by this Xel'Naga watchtower. Like I said, these are so important. You need to see when the attacks are coming if you want to deal with them appropriately. It looks like he's going to split his army to deal with an annoying Zergling there that he spotted. That was interesting. And he's now going to be pushing towards the second expansion of Abver, which is defended by these roaches. So it's going to be an interesting battle here. We do have an Immortal, but some nice force fields go down, cutting off half the army. This half is quickly demolished by the ground forces of DuckloadRa, who are ripping them to shreds. And now the Hydras are out, which should be enough to push this amount of units back. Against the Hydras, the Immortals are practically worthless, and it looks like Abver is going to be pushing up to do tons of damage. He gets a sweet concave off on the army of DuckloadRa, and he's quickly going to town on these forces. It looks like all of them are going to be completely routed here. The Stalker's desperately trying to escape, but that is definitely not going to be a successful escape, as I think the Roaches do have their speed upgrade now. They do indeed with the 3, which outruns the Stalker, which is at 2.95. We do see the Colossi are now out, though, for DuckloadRa. He's getting the Thermal Lance. Where is his Robo Bay? Oh, sorry, the facility. There it is. Producing the first Colossus. He's going to need a crap load more than that, though, if he wants to deal with this amount of roaches. And in fact, roaches do pretty well versus the Colossi. They're very beefy. It's really the Hydras you have to worry about. The Hydras do melt away quite a bit faster than roaches. Going to be taking out these destructible rocks here to take a 4th base, while DuckloadRa only has 2. So as you can see here, this is going further and further in the Zerg's favor, which does tend to go on, which does tend to occur the longer the game goes on. As the game progresses further and further, we do see the Zerg usually pull ahead in economy, as is natural, because quite frankly, it's much easier for a Zerg player to expand. Their expansions cost less, and they can be used to produce units, so they can defend their expansions much easier with their larvae. we do see a nice creep spread by the Zerg player right now, actually. His creep is about halfway across the map right now, and it's constantly being pushed forward. So I like to see that. There goes another creep tumor pushing forward. Gonna give his units the speed bonus. We can see on the creep he's 3.9. So almost a 20. Wow, man, the math is just not working out today. 33% increase in speed. Looks like some creep has been already dropped there to prevent this expansion from going down. It's going to delay it a little while. You got to wait for the creep to recede before you place down your nexus. So it's pretty cool to see that. We actually have air weapons level 1. Now that is an upgrade I have never seen go down. Air weapons level 1. He's really going to be committing to these void rays. We see a very similar composition. The same as the second game on... Wait, no, that was the first game on Shakur's Plateau. And that did quite well versus the Zergling Infestor mix of roxkisAbver in that game. But now we see a completely different game. We see Hydra Roach. So it's going to be interesting to see how this fares versus that combination of units. I don't know, actually. The Zealots should do pretty well versus the ground forces, but without that leg speed, they won't be able to get into the Roaches and Hydras fast enough. Assuming the battle takes place on creep, that speed bonus is going to give Abver the upper hand. So it should be interesting to see what happens when that engagement comes. And take in mind these Void Rays will have their nice upgrade, which is just now completing. Going to be giving him this prismatic beam. Going to be doing 7 and 11 damage, respectively, versus the ground and air units of Abver. So we do see that the Gold Expo has now been placed down. Some drones are transferring over here. Corruptors are now out, which is actually a very, 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 very nice play. I think I actually have to take back what I said about not knowing how the battle was going to go. With this amount of Corruptors, the Colossi and Void Rays are going to be a thing of the past. The second the battle comes out, looks like we have 5 Void Rays and 2 Colossi. Not going to be enough versus... How many Corruptors is this, guys? Looks like we have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 Corruptors. 13 Corruptors are going to go in first and quickly go to work on the units here. And it actually looks like the Protoss army is caught a little bit out of position. Some force fields are there, but the Zealots are going in on their own. The Corruptors are just laying waste to the Colossi right now. The Void Rays have been they've been corrupted. I was wondering there were no infestors. And it looks like the army is getting completely destroyed. DuckloadRa is getting absolutely demolished here. The Corruptors actually weren't enough because they were not focus firing the air appropriately. But I don't think that even matters. We see this expansion is going to go down before it even gets a chance to mine 50 of minerals. More Roaches are pouring in by the second. Hydras are now coming out to deal with the Void Rays, which is really all that's left in terms of units. And we have 50 Zerglings coming out for Abver here, just going to be wasting his minerals, putting them into something that builds a little bit faster. He's probably got all his hatches rallied over here. We can see that DuckloadRa GG's out of this game. Wow. That was one heck of a battle, guys. And once again, we see the army is continuing to battle after the game has been finished. So another interesting game here. I do feel like this game was lost because of the early damage that the Zerg player Abver was able to do to DuckloadRa. That early push after losing those 2 Stalkers did take out a number of sentries, and once this expansion got taken out for the first time, DuckloadRa really fell behind in economy. The Zerg player knew that and expanded on his lead, and when you do that, there's really nothing your opponent can do to stop it. So an excellent best of 3 series here, going to be capped off with a Zerg victory by roxkisAbver versus DuckloadRa. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If that is indeed the case, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Please and thank you. Hope to see you again for my next cast. Peace out, guys, and tune in again for another daily dose of Ownage.